listening to the Hometown Losers, the St. Louis Sports Podcast, with Josh, Adam, and OJ.
Hey everybody, welcome back here to the Hometown Losers Podcast, session number 31. I'm joined, as always, here by my co-hosts, Adam and OJ. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Glad to be back. We survived, the trade deadline, and excited to talk about that. How's it going for you, OJ?
Oh, I'm doing well.
Glad to hear it.
Very good to hear it from you guys here. Obviously, a lot has transpired in the Redbird space, and that's probably what we're going to primarily talk about today. Going straight into it here and taking a look at it, just to give an update on where the Cardinals stand. They're 48-61, which is 10.5 back in the Central, 25th in all of MLB, 13th in the NL out of 15, and they are 10 games back in the wild card. So obviously at this point, we've known for a while that this team is not going anywhere in the postseason and stuff like that. Lots of trades happened. We had 4 major trades. We actually technically had a 5th one with Yenis Cabrera going, I think it was like 3 weeks before the trade deadline or 2 weeks before the trade deadline. But that one's kind of old news, so to speak. So we'll just talk a little bit about the trades that were happened here more recently around the trade deadline. So getting into it here. Let's take a look here. So the first one I have on my board here is the Rangers made a trade with us for Jordan Montgomery and Chris Stratton. And we got infielder Thomas Sagis, right-handed pitcher. It's Tekoa Roby, and then left-handed pitcher and John King. Gentlemen, what's your thought process so far on that trade?
I mean, for me, I feel that while we did add a little bit of depth, I feel that we really just, I don't know, these guys just feel like they need a lot of development. I just felt like it just really left room for improvement. Honestly, these guys, like John King, I was looking into him. He's a 28-year-old left-handed reliever.
Yeah.
What's up?
And it's like 28 years old already.
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay. And the fact is that he really has a lot of room for improvement, honestly. So I'm not really thrilled by him at all. I mean, considering what we had to give up for him. So it is, it is what it is. And then as far as this Roby and Sagis guy, they're just kind of middle of the road prospects, honestly. And I feel like, honestly, it's something that, we could probably develop ourselves more than likely, but it is what it is.
I think. OJ, what's your thoughts? Oh, sorry, Adam.
No, I'm good. I'm not thrilled by this.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did a pretty good job with it, actually, because what makes judging prospects hard is the lack of information and all that. But what I read about Roby, for instance, is that he's a legitimate prospect. Like, people say he's got like 4+ pitches, I think it was. So he projects to be like the concern with him is injuries, which he had. I think he had something with his shoulder this year, and then 2 years ago he had a forearm strain, or it's the other way around, I forget. But I believe he did pitch all year last year. Yeah, he did. But anyway, the point is that if he can avoid being hurt, which is, you could say that for any pitcher, but if he can avoid being hurt, he has legitimate stuff. So he's actually a pretty good prospect. And then Sagisi also, that's the guy that they were saying they kind of reminded them of Brendan Donovan a little bit, if I'm not mistaken. So he's an infielder, essentially. He can play multiple positions, and he also has been raking at every level of the minors with like healthy on base and stuff like that. So it's like he actually seems like he might be just a really good position player, even though we don't need that. He probably is valuable in a trade at the very least. I believe they assigned both of those guys to AAA this season, or when they got them, I mean. So they should be.
I think so.
trying to get him
I think,
ready next year. But
yeah, for something. I think Tatis is still in Double-A, but I could be wrong.
okay, maybe they didn't up him, but I'm pretty sure a couple of guys they boosted. But
For sure.
the point is that they're both legitimate prospects that could definitely help the team and are definitely good ammunition for any potential off-season trades. So I think they did well with those two. And then King is just a guy to fill out your bullpen for the rest of the year. So
Yeah.
I'm not really, I don't think that, I think they got two good prospects back for expiring contracts, and that's pretty good. So
Yeah, and to your point, OJ, that's the only thing that I look at this as the positive, if you're asking my opinion, right? Is one that we got some prospects potentially for the future that don't seem necessarily as bad what was originally kind of presented. But the fact is that we also got something for expiring contracts, which is the biggest point of it, right? I actually have a lot of statistics here I'll go through real quick. So Thomas Aggies plays primarily shortstop. However, as you said, OJ, he is kind of like a Brendan Donovan, plays all over the field. He was drafted in 2020 in the 5th round. He's 21 years old. He's played in 95 games this season, 175 hits, 16 home runs, 79 RBIs, 98 strikeouts, which all looks really good. He's batting at 313, which is also pretty good, on base at 379, and slugging at 512. This is the one thing that kind of concerns me a little bit, is that his fielding percentage is actually at 968 in AAA and AA combined. So to me, I think that is something that we'll need to kind of look at. Obviously, we can develop that, but obviously we're really struggling with that right now this season as well with our fielding percentage. Roby was drafted in 2020 in the 3rd round. He's 21 years old. He has started 10 games. He's 2-3, 5.05 on his ERA at the AA level. 46.1 innings pitched out of those 10 starts. So, it's 4.6 innings per game. He's walked 12, 50 strikeouts, which is good. That's decent. But he is batting average against him is 279, and he's got a whip of 132, which that whip is not necessarily terrible, but it's not like ideal. And then, as you said, OJ, now we're talking about John King, who's just going to be like the guy that was going to throw in our bullpen. John King was drafted originally in 2017 in the 10th round. He is a 28-year-old pitcher. He has 4 years of MLB experience in 16 outings. This year, he's 1-1 with a 5.79 ERA. He's got 2 holds. He's blown 2 saves. He's pitched in 18.2 innings, given up 26 hits, 12 runs, 4 walks, 10 strikeouts. Batting average against him is 342. And he has a whip of 161. So I don't believe that John King will be on this team next year. When you take a look
Jesus.
at, yeah,
we're trying to rebuild our bullpen. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah. I don't care if he's a lefty. He's not. His balls don't miss a lot of bats. If you know what I mean.
Not.
So yeah. So to me, that's the only saving grace, is what I said a little earlier, that, we knew that Jordan Montgomery was not going to be on this team probably next year, as it was an expiring contract. Maybe we can pick him up, but he's probably going to be too much for what Mo's willing to spend. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Chris Stratton, I was kind of sad to see you leave, even though he's kind of had like an up and down season. He's kind of one of those guys that can eat up some innings for you. You know what I mean? So, it is what it is at this point, but I was kind of sad to see Stratton leave. Obviously, Jordan Montgomery, because I felt like he's been our most consistent pitcher this year.
Oh, for sure.
Well, yeah. No, but I didn't realize it, but he's 30 now. So I see.
Yeah, Montgomery.
3-year-old Boris client, so he's gonna be wanting a contract till he's 40 that pays him.
Yeah, spends him out.
Exactly. Yeah.
I get it.
And that was one of the things that came into it, that it's like, okay, he's most likely not going to be with the Cardinals next year because of
for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. This would have been nice if we could have got a little more, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Let's go to the second trade here. The Orioles get Jack Flaherty. We get infielder Cesar Puerto and a left-handed pitcher Drew Rom. I'll just go through it real quick in the analysis, and I'll ask you guys about this. So Pietro, I'm just going to say Caesar because I don't know if I'm actually pronouncing his last name correctly or not, but Caesar is 4 years old. Perito?
I'm assuming.
Perito.
I'm going to go with it.
Yeah. He's 24 years old, plays mostly shortstop again, but also has played all over the field. In 85 games played this season, he's got 117 hits, 6 home runs, 49 RBIs, 23 walks, which shows a lot of patience, and only 27 strikeouts compared to those 23 walks. Average 349, which is very good. On base percentage 393, and slugging at 475, so did very well. The one thing again that kind of concerns me is fielding percentage is 970 this year. And that's what a lot of people said on his like prospect card, was that his fielding is not the cleanest. So hopefully the Cardinals can get him to be better at small ball. And take a look at Drew Rom, originally drafted in 18, round 4. He's 22 years old. He has 18 games started this season. He's 7-6 in his record, 5.34 on ERA, 86 innings pitched. He's given up 100 hits, 51 earned runs, 46 walks, 100 strikeouts, which is very good. But again, giving up 100 hits in that 291 average and a whip of 1.7. So that shows you that, not necessarily is he giving up all these hits, which it's kind of weird because he's got 100 hits, but with the whip and the average kind of, shows that he is walking a lot more per hit, what is probably a little higher. So, OJ, I'm going to start with you on this one. What's your thoughts on this trade for Jack Flaherty? We knew that obviously another expiring contract that we were going to have to offload, but what's your analysis on this trade?
To me, this one was kind of a little lighter than I expected, but then I thought about injury history and all, and he's also on an expiring contract, and so he's had a rough couple of years, so I could see why we would get less. But yeah, I mean, Rom's probably more like a bullpen arm, maybe. I honestly think that's kind of what they're thinking with some of these guys, is like maybe we can bullpen because their stuff will play up there. And, that's fine. I mean, because they do need to rework their bullpen because it was awful this year.
Yes.
Or it has been so far, I should say.
Pitching in general has been so bad this year for us. But I mean, the bullpen, as you said, OJ, is also just been...
Well, yeah, the staff kind of picked it up outside of Liberatore and Wainwright. I guess, two-fifths of your rotation being just awful. Like unplayable isn't very good.
Right. It really overshadows it like a decent outing. Not like, because you have to have a stellar outing for it to be like, oh, you okay? Hey, this pitcher's doing really well. Because most of it just like clouded with all this crap.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But anyway, so I think some of these guys, I could see them doing that. I don't really get the Prieto move. I think there's something I probably don't know about him.
Well, that's the problem, is that we don't really know a lot about him because honestly, Orioles never really had to play him with their depth or whatever. So he just sat down in the minors primarily, I think.
And he's a guy that came from Cuba as well, so you don't have a lot of those like the college rankings, high school rankings, and all that stuff too.
Yeah, we don't really just know much.
Undrafted free agent, right?
Yeah, that's the problem.
If you look at his numbers, they are kind of interesting. He basically doesn't strike out. He walks a healthy amount, so he has a nice on base percentage. So like somebody that puts the ball in play a lot, but also doesn't strike out and takes walks. Like, I don't know.
Brendan Donovan.
The main thing I hear about him is he's pretty light hitting. So he is. But
it'd be nice to have a nice lefty on our in our lineup for sure. But that's unfortunate. I don't think he definitely will lack that. Like you said, the power for sure, but he does have good, he's very good as far as when it comes to being
defensive. The bat on the ball.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of.
I don't know what they see in him exactly because he's also 24 in AAA. So it's like a good age level, but he's getting to the point where he needs to like get to the majors or he's gonna bust. So.
For sure.
And he just got to AAA this season too. So
really?
they say that the projection track is that he'd be like 26, 27 before he potentially could make a major league start.
Oof.
And that is a little concerning.
That's very concerning. I mean, to be 27 and just breaking into the majors, damn. That's not exactly like what I want to see, but especially, if we got to wait a few years before we see any real progress here, but.
Yeah, but it at the same point, go on, OJ.
If he's so really, the way prospects go through the minors nowadays, they don't spend more than a year in AAA. Usually, that's usually for guys that are tuning up, or if you have a guy like Prieto, if he gets to like 25, 26, and he's still stuck in the minors, then he's either going to get traded or he's going to be let go. Like, he's not going to debut in the majors if he has to wait that long, is my point.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that's what they were talking about with the development that he needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There must be some quality he's got that I don't see. Because, like, the Roby guy, that I've heard people say he's got 4+ pitches and one that they think could be plus. So he sounds like a complete stud, but he's got like a 5 ERA. Now, part of it's
Exactly.
injury. He's dealt with injury this season, so that could be a lot of it. But like, his numbers, if you just look at the stats, don't look anything special. But that's why it's hard with prospects, if you can't watch them.
Exactly.
One thing too, you didn't mention him, but we also got to this trade with Zach Showalter as well, who was apparently a 11th round draft pick out of Florida High. Florida apparently.
Yeah.
We did.
Player.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Apparently he showed
yeah.
some promise with a fastball reaching up to 94 miles an hour. Limited
He was a
professional
two-way
experience.
player, if I remember correctly, as
Yeah.
well. But mostly focused on
very limited
pitching.
professional experience, though. Only 30 innings pitched so far. But apparently Cardinals are viewing him as a low-level flyer in this deal. They might be able to develop into a valuable asset down the road. Anyway, just thought I'd throw his name out there.
Yeah.
No. That's actually really important.
Yeah.
That's actually really important because that was like he probably is the main piece of this trade. I completely forgot about it because we got sidetracked talking about the other two. But this guy is in high A, and I know I read somewhere somebody said he had like 98 or something like that as a 19-year-old.
Gotcha. I mean, he was the 11th round draft pick, so I mean, clearly he's got some talent. So
he doesn't even have an evaluate like a prospect eval on Fangraphs. Like
because he was drafted this past season.
Our first round, sorry, yeah.
Oh, so they give him a future value after a couple of years? Because I don't know. They haven't.
Is that what it is?
Actually, in 2023. So he's been playing. I would have expected him to have some kind of grade, but that's all right. My main point is like he has some really good heat already as like a 19-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So people are 6'2", 195 pounder. So he's kind
Jesus.
of. Yeah. So once he puts on some muscle, teach him to pitch a little bit, could be a pretty good prospect. So.
For sure. And he could definitely be more of that replacement for Jordan Hicks as well. You know what I mean? Because obviously that's we'll talk about the Hicks trade here in just a little bit. But that's kind of what I potentially see him being. Especially if he's going to be able to throw, he'd just be a flamethrower. Put him towards the end of the bullpen and go from there.
Yeah, I really think Showalter, if 5 years down the line, we might be like, well, that's the best piece of this entire trade. So,
right.
Yeah, definitely need to talk about it.
Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, I guess it didn't show up on my on what I was going off of when I was like writing everything out.
Yeah,
because
I happened to catch that. I was like, oh yeah.
When the trade was first announced, they didn't mention him. It was only the other two. Remember that? Because I saw people like, oh, also we got this guy Zach Showalter.
We also got him too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah, because I saw him on on the article for like ESPN Plus, but when I was writing this on my PC and like writing down the statistics and stuff like that, it wasn't like I didn't have ESPN Plus signed in. I'm like, I screwed, I'm not gonna worry about it. So I think I got it like off of like CBS. So that would to explain it to OJ. Yeah, because I was like, wait, hold on, like I'm like, I don't remember this guy at all. And then I look at it and like I have the ESPN Plus, pulled up on the app on my phone. I'm like, wait, oh yeah, I forgot about Sean. He was the two-way player. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to the next one here. So the Blue Jays actually got two different trades. I don't know why they didn't package this, but it was kind of an interesting one. But so because I've
got hurt, or not? Sorry, the Blue Jays shortstop got hurt after they made the first.
Bo Bichette or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
So then they needed a stopgap. So we know DeYoung.
Yeah, because he banged up his knee, I think. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Paul DeYoung is gone to the Blue Jays, and we got Matt Swanson. It's not Swanson.
With a V.
SVAN. Yeah, SVANSON.
Swanson if you want. I'm sure it's
I'm sure everyone calls him
Svan.
Swanson.
Yeah.
Swanson. No,
Definitely.
Swanson.
Multiple coaches have called him Swanson.
Oh, you know it, man. So taking a look at Swanson, he was drafted in 21 and 13th round. He's 24 years old, a relief pitcher. In 26 games this season, he's got an ERA, an ERA of 1.11, which is pretty good.
Wow.
One record as well. He's got 2 holds, 6 saves, 32.1 innings pitched, 11 walks, 39 strikeouts, an average against him of 167 and a whip of .93. So looking much better than some of the other people that we've gotten here. And I'm kind of okay with this, especially with DeYoung ain't going to be on this team. You know what I mean? He needed to go. He's
for
under
sure.
contract anyways. He kind of had a little bit of a resurgence this year, but we know Mason Wynn's coming, and it's going to be a very loaded infield, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
The problem
I'm good with this trade, honestly, overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with this guy is he's 24 in high A.
Well,
Now,
actually, no, the Cardinals did assign him to Double A.
yeah, what I heard is he seems like somebody that can move pretty fast through the system.
Mm-hmm.
So he probably will. He's a guy that maybe could help him next season, potentially in like a bullpen role, something like that. But yeah, he's 24 and in high A, just so
Yeah.
we know about that. But yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
And let's see, am I missing somebody? That's not all the trades, is it?
No, Mason Wynn.
No, there's one more here. And no, we didn't trade for Mason Wynn.
No.
No. So the last one we did was the Blue Jays got Jordan Hicks, and we got in a seam Robers, and we also got Adam Klopfenstein. Both of those guys are right-handed pitchers. So take a look at it here. Seam Robers, he's from the Netherlands, so it's Seam. It's SEM. He's 21 years old. He's pitched, or no, excuse me. Yeah, so he's pitched in. I can't remember. No, he is a starting pitcher. So it's 18 games pitched. He has 3-5 record, 4.06 ERA, 88.2 innings pitched, 71 hits given up, 14 home runs given up, 33 walks, 86 strikeouts, an average of 213, so 213 on average, and a whip of 117, which is pretty good. And for whatever reason, I could the statistics of what I was trying to look up for Klopfenstein wouldn't pull up. Might be able to do that right now, but it sounded like somebody was going to say something while I tried to look this guy up real quick.
No, not me.
So, again, this was an interesting one. We know that Jordan Hicks has had, see, now it pulled up. For whatever reason, it wasn't pulling up for me before. But Jordan Hicks has had an up and down season all year. So it's nice that we got something for him, but Jordan Hicks is going to be hard to replace in that bullpen because of the fact that he's just such a flamethrower, right? If I can get this stupid ad that's taken up my entire screen to go away, even though I've hit this stupid X like 90 times. Anyways, so let's take a look at what Klopfenstein has done this year so far. He has, God, this is so annoying. He started in 17 games. So he's started in 17 games. He's 5-5 in those games, 3.24 in ERA. He's actually got one complete game, which is pretty impressive, especially in the Double A. It's 89 innings pitched, 79 hits given up, 32 runs, 34 walks, 105 strikeouts, and an average of 236 against them and a whip of 1.27. So that's also not bad, honestly. So both those pitchers don't seem bad.
This guy's got some pretty good strikeout numbers on him. Actually, it's 7% strikeouts to 8.9% walks. So that's pretty good. And what I really like about him is that he's 22 in Double A. He was 21 in Double A last year. He's repeating the year. Keith Law said he really doesn't like him as a prospect because of that. But if you look at his ERA, FIP, and XFIP from the previous seasons, all of a sudden it's much lower. It seems like he's made big improvements or he figured something out. So I think Keith Law might be underrating him a little bit because, I mean, dude can't go watch every prospect all the time. I think he's wrong about this one.
Yeah. Well, and also too, he got drafted out of high school, it looks like. So because he got drafted in 2018, and he was the third round and 88th overall. So you mean like Toronto saw something in him for sure. I don't know where he was at on the board, so to speak, for the 2018 draft, but he's obviously been developing for quite a while. So I think that is a good sign for us. You know what I mean? In a sense for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adam, what's your thoughts here on the Hicks trade?
Yeah, I think looking at the stats here, I think we actually walked away here pretty decently overall. Obviously we were looking to benefit from, Hicks' recent success, and I think that definitely helped us get a better trade in with, with some of these prospects. So, honestly, this Klopfenstein overall, he's had a pretty impressive start. Wow. I mean, looking over, he had a kind of a rough 2022, but he's kind of rebounded since. So honestly, I think if he, stays healthy, I agree with OJ. He might be, well on his way to be making a debut pretty soon.
Yeah, and OJ, you brought that up really well, that he had to have figured something out here, because like he's done a pretty good job of, again, at least this year his numbers look pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. They really do. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with them. And then as far as this, who was the other guy? I think it was Reverse. Yeah, the righty. Looking at him,
Tim Reverse.
Yeah, he's not as talented, it looks like, yet. He had a little higher ERA, looks like 4.06 ERA at 18 starts. But we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Reverse is kind of interesting to me as well, because I read a little article about him. Apparently he's like, he's one of the more old school kind of ways that he's brought up, where his father wouldn't let him throw a curveball until he was like 17. So,
oh, really? Wow.
Let him throw any breaking stuff, because he said he wanted him to learn to pitch. So I guess until he was 17, he was just fastball changeup or something like that. He wanted him to change speeds and locations and work it and all that. So sounds like he's been learning to actually pitch from a young age. So he's kind of interesting in that regard. You could see him potentially developing pretty quickly. And Klopfenstein, no, from what I read, he's got just no gas, but he's got a million pitches that break, and he can like control how much they all break and stuff like that. So it's kind of another interesting one. I feel like they got a lot of interesting prospects.
We did, and it's that interesting. Obviously, most of this is very pitching heavy for sure, and where we felt like we really were struggling more than anything. So
yeah, exactly. We got a lot of interesting pitch prospects, but a lot of interesting pitching prospects, more importantly.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that'll be interesting, going forward the next, few years down the line, see as they develop. So
yeah,
I'm hopeful.
You'll probably see some of the prospects we got next year. I'm willing to bet.
Some of them,
Well, I would imagine so, because of what we've had to offload and what we're going to have to do to fill those spots.
We're going to have some serious gaps there for sure. We're going to need to put at least a few of them in the bullpen for sure. So
yeah,
exactly. At least give them a shot,
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a look at some of the trade reviews here. So these are going to be done by some of the ESPN writers. The first one that we're going to have here is the Jack Flaherty trade with the Orioles. I'm not going to read I'll read our grade. I'll just say what the grade was for the other team. So they believe that the Orioles got an A- for this. Our grade was a flat C. So what they said is Pietro is kind of an unknown as a prospect, since the Orioles are so loaded with infielders, but he's hitting 349, 393, 475 between AA and AAA. He's got exceptional bat to ball skill with a 7.4 strikeout rate, but also doesn't walk much and doesn't have much power. He does hit left-handed, which is a nice positive. but probably projects as utility player, potentially a good one, and potentially a little better than that thanks to his contact ability. Rom has been hit hard in AAA with 100 hits and 46 walks and 86 innings, and is what you might describe as a crafty lefty. Those numbers are pretty rough numbers, but the Cardinals are simply collecting starting pitching prospects who are close to the majors to give them as much potential depth as possible for next year, and hope a couple of them click. Showalter, not related to the Mets manager, was an 11th round pick last year out of Florida high school. He has 30 pro innings under his belt. He was a two-way player in high school and a good athlete, hitting up to 94. But he has some good early numbers and looks like the kind of low-level flyer you take as a throw-in in these types of deals. That was by David Schofield. So what do you guys' thought process on this? To me, when I take a look at this, and I'm going to be honest, like for the Flaherty deal specifically, I definitely thought it was a little light.
Agreed.
For me, and I don't think that necessarily like it was for me. I don't think this was really a C. I think this was closer to a C minus or a D plus if I have to grade it. Yes, like some of the like numbers don't look bad. You can kind of get excited about them, but at the same time, like for Jack Flaherty, who we know that he's been all over the board with injuries, but he had almost a Cy Young half a season. You know what I mean? And
he's had
it
a
was
strong season for sure. Yeah, he did.
Yeah, and but and also what everyone keeps saying is that the center point or centerpiece of this trade was Pietro, which I'm like, why would we need another infielder? That's the thing that kills me right now is like we don't need infielders, we need outfielders, and we need pitching.
Were they looking at him from as far as from a batting perspective? Is that what they were looking at? Because obviously when it comes from his defensive skills are not the greatest. So you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So I'm not terribly too certain, but everyone keeps saying that this is the first name in the trade, which is meaning the biggest piece that the Orioles were giving up.
Gotcha.
So,
yeah, I mean,
I'm not like
I think so.
knock my socks off by this at all. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying some of it's just about getting value too, because you can always flip them again in the off season. Because I mean,
exactly.
I think they want to get rid of one of Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson, because they basically are going to roll with Walker in right, Nootbaar in center, and then one of Carlson, O'Neill in left. That's what it seems like they want to do. So they're going to trade an outfielder yet. I guess they already got rid of DeYoung, but they could make more deals in the offseason, and some of these guys like a Prieto could be extra ammunition for that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what it could be, but we just don't know what it is going to be. So you almost have to kind of assume that no trades are going to be made, but it's hard to do that because this team is just really loaded in certain positions, and we're really deficient in others. Mm-hmm. So you would imagine that. Mo,
he's got to make some moves to be balanced.
Yeah. I mean, right now our position players are absolutely fine. We don't need to trade any of them, or we don't need to add to that. Is what I'm saying. So that's why to me it feels like this guy's.
Yeah, that's why I was happy to see. Hey, we're going towards pitching, and that was a lot of their focus, which was great.
Yeah, and I mean, if you really think this Segezi guy can be Donovan-like, if he shows you he is, then you can trade him or Donovan even, because Brendan Donovan is really valuable to.
Oh hell yeah, he is right now.
So I mean, if you really are confident in him, you could maybe even get a huge return for Donovan if you wanted to go crazy,
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of what it seems like. It just gives you some versatility, help you make moves in the future.
Let's take a look here at the second trade that was graded on ESPN. This was the Paul DeYoung trade. So the Blue Jays got a grade of an A, and the Cardinals got a C. So it says that, yes, that spelling is correct. It's Swanson with a V, a 13th round pick out of LA in 2021. I know. The right-hander has transitioned full-time to the bullpen this season and crushed Class A with a 1.11 ERA in 32 and 1/3 innings. Baseball America didn't have Swanson in the top 30 Blue Jay prospects in its middle season update. The Cardinals like Swanson enough to assign him to Double-A, where we'll find out if he's a legitimate prospect. But maybe the exciting aspect of this deal for the Cardinals is the potential call-up of Mason Wynn, the 21-year-old shortstop with a rocket of an arm who is hitting 284, 356, and 467 with 16 home runs at AAA Memphis. I think it makes sense for the Cardinals to start his big league clock and give him experience now, as he most likely takes over in 24 as a starting shortstop. And that was by Schofield as well. And I think that Schofield brings up a pretty good point there. With now DeYoung gone, there does leave like another infield spot, and might as well get Mason Wynn because your team's not going.
That's the reason why I mentioned that earlier.
I
was literally reading that. I was literally reading about that. So whenever we were talking about that earlier, and that's why I mentioned Wynn, because they were talking about bringing him up, which totally made sense. So would love to bring him up from AAA.
I think they probably will bring him up this year, but it's probably not going to be till at least mid-August, because I was reading about that, and in order to be certain that we preserve his rookie eligibility for next season, it would make sense to wait a couple more weeks yet before we bring him up.
So he doesn't get that many games, right?
Yeah. So there's a at-bat limit and a game limit. So to make sure he gets nowhere near the at-bat limit, you just bring him up, with like a couple weeks to go in August, something like that. So give it a couple weeks, we probably
right. All right, so let's take a look here at the next one. This is talking about the Rangers getting the Montgomery and the Chris Stratton trade. The Rangers were given an A-. The Cardinals were given yet another C. So what was written here was the actual aspect of this trade kind of works. You have two non-elite pending free agent pitchers. Their 2 months of remaining production would be a lot more valuable to a contending team than one that began Sunday looking up at the Pirates in the standings. Depending on how you see Roby, 45 FV, which means future value, and Saggy's 40 FV, you could see how the math could work in the future value estimations. The Cardinals have their own ways of making these estimations, and obviously, like Roby and Saggy's, alas, I'm not really that excited about the St. Louis return. Call it a matter of opportunity cost. In this trade environment, with so many teams hunting for pitchers and so many teams in relative contention, I would have expected a better and differently structured package that offered more upside potential, even if that meant dipping into the rookie complex leagues for a very young wild card type or two. I don't have a problem with either Roby or Saggy's. You need middle of the road prospects, and the Cardinals produce plenty of them. But King, he's a 28-year-old lefty reliever who's about to hit arbitration eligibility. Who is what he is at this point. Doesn't miss bats and throws a heavy sinker at 93 to 94 miles per hour that produces a lot of ground balls. For lack of a better term, he's kind of a ham and egger. The Cardinals have added to their organizational depth, but could have done more. Maybe they could have fashioned a different outgoing package, folding in Montgomery and Hicks together in an effort to land one or two prospects with higher ceilings. It is as it is, this deal on St. Louis end feels light, and that was by Doolittle, which we know is, he's always talking about the Cardinals and lights, or in specific light. So OJ, what's your opinion here on what Doolittle says here about this trade with the Rangers?
Well, I just wanted, so I heard on the radio today they mentioned that they had the leader, the lead guy on Fangraphs, said he loved the Roby. He loves Roby as a prospect. So some people do view him very highly, legitimate people, So it's like they said, depending on how you look at him. So to me, if you really think Roby's good, which I do, then it's not a bad trade. And I do find it interesting that they mentioned opportunity cost specifically, because it makes me wonder if they're not kind of zigging when some other people are zagging, or I don't know if they're got some sort of cutting edge thing they're trying or what. So it's interesting.
Right. Well, let's get to the last one here. This is the other Blue Jays trade. This is the Jordan Hicks trade. They gave the Blue Jays a B plus, for this one, and for the Cardinals they gave us a B minus. And this is what they said. The Cardinals are no doubt frustrated that Hicks never really reached his potential in St. Louis, with Tommy John surgery wiping out much of 19 through 21. But as he heads into free agency, they were at least able to cash in on his well-timed breakout. They get two starting pitching prospects in Double-A for a rental reliever. Roboers, a 21-year-old native of the Netherlands, has a 4.06 ERA for New Hampshire in 18 starts. He was Kylie McDaniel's number 10 Blue Jay prospect heading into the season with a 45 future value grade. Klopfenstein, a 22-year-old right-hander, has slightly outperformed Robos at Double-A with a 3.24 ERA and 105 strikeouts in 89 innings. A nice rebound season after struggling in 22 and falling off a prospect radar. Neither player is a high ceiling prospect, but both are young, at least with the potential to start, and will offer potential rotation depth for next season, which the Cardinals will need. If one of them eventually pans out as a back-end rotational starter, the Cardinals will be very happy. That was again by Schofield. Adam, what's your takes on this here?
I'm actually happy with this, honestly, overall, because I mean Jordan Hicks just hasn't been that guy for us, honestly. And so if we can get a couple good prospects out of the deal, especially this Klopfenstein, who definitely looks like he's promising. I think this was a good, decent trade, honestly. Like I said, I feel like it was of all of them, I feel pretty good about this. I'm not too sad to see Jordan Hicks go. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because he just never lived up to that potential.
He never did. No, he just really didn't. So, I'm not gonna be upset that he won't be blowing any more games. So there you go.
Right.
Let's take a look. Yeah, let's take a look here at just our overall thoughts at the trade deadline here. OJ, what's your thoughts on all the trades, and after the dust is now settled with that, what's your thoughts on the trade deadline from the St. Louis perspective?
I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, I really do think that they got some interesting prospects for a bunch of guys that were on expiring contracts, except for like Paul DeYoung, who has team options, which are really nice. But yeah, I mean, to me, you can't really ask for much more than that when you're trading rentals, especially guys that aren't all like top dollar guys either. Like Jordan Montgomery is by far the best player we traded away. So
yeah,
definitely.
Adam, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they were, having to make these moves. I mean, these were pretty predictable that we were going to be getting rid of some of these guys, definitely Montgomery, some of the guys that were, going to be free agents soon. While I feel like these weren't necessarily the strongest of trades, I'm not all that surprised, honestly, because, for me, a lot of these guys coming in were going to be younger, going to need some work. They're not going to be ready for the majors by any means. I was hoping for maybe a little bit more blockbuster deal. I was kind of hopeful for it, but let's be honest, I don't think that was going to happen. I think we're all I don't think any of us really expected anything big to happen. So it was, for me, it was probably like a B minus, maybe a C plus, sort of trade deadline, kind of deal for me, honestly. I wasn't overly hyped, but I wasn't completely disappointed.
So I would tell you that I didn't like this offseason before coming into the season. I definitely didn't really like this trade deadline. Yes, we got some good prospects out of it and stuff like that, but I really do believe that Mo failed to make this team any better, because now coming into the next offseason, we're really going to have to ramp up some stuff. We'll talk about that just in a little bit, but I just really think it's kind of funny how we need pitching help. I get it. We're not going anywhere, so it's really hard to see teams are not going to give away, veteran players for
of course
what we
not.
have anyways. You know what I mean? So I understand
not without
that
giving up a
completely.
lot.
Yeah, I understand that completely. But at the same time, to me, it's like you traded pitching for pitching, which is okay. But a lot of these pitchers are not going to be ready next year, I don't think. And so then you're really going to be hurting again in the offseason trying to find pitchers, which was the exact same fucking situation that we were in coming into this season. And in a lot of cases, to me, it's worse. So, I am not the happiest when it comes to this, but at the same time, I haven't been happy with the Cardinals, period. So, it's just kind of really hard for me because it's hard for me to like kind of remove the emotion from it because I had a lot of like hope for this team. I thought that they were going to be okay. I definitely think they needed some starting pitching. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, hey, look, we needed pitching. Cool. We kind of said that. You know what I mean? So, I might be looking at this way more of a darker cloud than a lot of people, but it's just kind of my opinion on it. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I don't know. Most of these prospects probably are more 2025 type people. So,
yeah, at best, yeah.
Like I said, I do think there's a few you could maybe see up in the majors next year at some point. But yeah, I mean, really, none of those blockbuster trades usually get done at the deadline. It's usually something you do in the off season, especially when you're doing like player for player swaps. Like if we could have, for instance, traded a Tyler O'Neill for a pitcher or something straight up. That's the kind of thing that's probably going to happen in the off season. So
Yeah.
I still can see. I mean, there's also free agency out there too in the off season. So sign a couple guys, trade for a couple guys. You can make things happen pretty quick. Like I said, I think this does a pretty good job of bolstering their farm system, even though they're not. Most of them aren't really top prospects, and some people think Roby is, some people don't. Whatever. I think that a lot of these guys have they got a lot of guys that have chances to be significant contributors. So that's a fine return for me. Like I said, I mean, I wouldn't give it an A+, but I mean a B+ is probably my range on it.
Yeah, I'm a little more optimistic than Josh is here, but I also see the point that I think we're going to have more opportunities too. That it's while this season is a wash for sure, but looking into next season, we're going to have a few more opportunities to make moves, and I guess I'm a little more optimistic that we can make that happen.
Yeah. And I think the reason why I'm not as optimistic is because Mo hasn't been able to make those moves, and so like, and that actually, let's just progress it to the next thing that I wanted to talk about was should Mo be fired, because I know that has been a lot of conversation, not just with me. Obviously, I'm very negative with it, but just in for the Redbird Nation here, a lot of people are calling for his head, well before obviously the trade deadline and stuff like that as well. So I'll kind of just go into it and kind of like my opinion on it. Looking at Mozeliak's, I mean, he's been with us for what, like 15 years, or it's been longer than that. I think since 2009. So 14
since
years.
Walt Jocketty, I guess. So those days. So that's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and Walt Jocketty was amazing. He brought Larry Walker. He brought a lot of other talent stuff. Now Mozeliak is gotten some positive stuff. I mean, he got Matt Holliday in a trade in 2009. He was signed Lance Berkman, and remember, a lot of people didn't like Berkman until obviously he played really well for us, especially in the World Series. And obviously he got Goldie and Arenado. But the problem with it is he's also got a lot of negatives, right? So it was pretty much, a lot of people were saying it was a done deal that we were going to get Juan Soto. Then he wasn't willing to give up Dylan Carlson. That has almost been confirmed, essentially confirmed but not confirmed by people, which is kind of funny because it's like, why? But whatever. Also, the Matt Leake signing back in 2016, if you guys remember that, signed a huge contract.
It depends what the rest of the package was on that. Like, yeah, he didn't want to add Dylan Carlson to whatever the package was for Juan Soto, but it's not like he wouldn't trade Dylan Carlson for Juan Soto straight up.
Well, yeah, but that was not the conversation that was being had. He said that. Go on.
I'm just saying, if we're listing like facts or whatever, let's try and be fair about it. Then that's all.
Well, for sure, and I understand that, but like again, yeah, it's, if he was going for it straight up, obviously he would have taken that, obviously hands down. But it was Brendan Donovan for the trade that was presented. It was Brendan Donovan. It was Matthew Liberatore. It was not Tank Hintz, but it was Graceffo. It was Dylan Carlson. That was the trade that was presented, and he said he didn't want to trade Dylan Carlson. They tried it differently with trading out Tank Hintz for Graceffo, as well as I think Donovan for Edman, and they still wanted Carlson. He said, I'm not trading Carlson. So that's why, again, this is all hearsay because you're never going to know exactly what those conversations were said. This is just from stuff that was heard around.
Yeah, because what I was a lot more than that. Like, they wanted Walker and Wynn and, and more and more and more. It's like, it sounded ridiculous.
I don't think that's true at all because they didn't even get that return from the Padres. You know what I mean? They didn't get that type of return from the Padres at all. So I don't
I
think
don't know.
that's true.
They're
But
people
again, we'll never know.
stars.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't know how to stack up their people against ours, honestly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was just saying because the Padres, if I remember correctly, going into that, because that was a huge topic of discussion, was that they still held on to their top three prospects, which obviously for us would have been Jordan Walker, Mason Wynn, and I don't know if it would have been maybe Tank Hintz or Grissifo. I don't know where it would be in relation for us, but obviously you would have to say for our top two prospects are Jordan Walker, who's now here, and definitely Mason Wynn. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting back to my point though, was Mo signs Matt Leake, and he lasted half a season. That was a massive contract. Also Brent Cecil, everybody kind of forgets that he signed Brent Cecil to be our closer in 2017. That really sucks. The Ozuna trade, even though Ozuna kind of picked it up a little bit, he never really panned out. But we gave up for that trade Sandy Alcantara and Zach Gallen, and Alcantara just won a Cy Young. Gallup, went to the All-Star game this year and has had a phenomenal season. Take a look at his inability and not to give up Matt Carpenter. Continue to try to sign him and keep him around forever and keep him on the roster too, even though he was bringing us down. Also Dylan or Rosarena and Garcia as well. Now, granted, that's because he believed that we had a very good outfield, and on paper we did. But Rosarena is just absolutely destroying baseball right now. Garcia's done pretty well as well. So and you can say that for any GM. It's super hard to be a GM, as we know. It's the reason why we're sitting here just having a podcast about it, and we're not GMs ourselves. But for me, I think that Mo is just kind of lost the ability to be able to make the right decision for what the Cardinals need. I mean, yes, he went out and got Wilson Contreras. Wilson Contreras has been an absolute nightmare this year. I don't think anybody expected that, but it's, some of the blame has to fall on the GM. It can't just be the player. It can't just be the coach.
Does,
you know what
for sure, especially for a GM, and I am going to cut into Bo here a little bit, a GM that I think has really kind of holds his managers, he kind of micromanages them from what I understand, and it can be kind of toxic towards the managers. So while a lot of people are putting this on Ali, I equally blame a lot of these decisions by Mo as well. While he did have a lot of success initially, I think that a lot of decisions, especially in the since probably 2013, 2014 in there, probably under the Mike Matheny days and on, were when we started to really veer off. And I think that he's been hiring managers recently that are inexperienced and low salary, and he wants to kind of control them to a certain extent, or at least not question him,
Right, exactly. And to your point there, Adam, as I also believe that Ali is a very big yes man. I think we've talked about that as well.
And I think that that's what he wants, because look what he did to Schilt. Schilt didn't have a horrible record, but he came in thinking that was, oh man, don't even get me started, but thinking he was going to get a contract extension, and instead basically says, yeah, this isn't going to go the way you think it is, and then just fires him. Because Schilt was questioning some of his decisions, and he doesn't want that.
Yeah.
He wants the yes.
OJ, you're going to say something?
So anyway.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. To me, it depends how much you like the offensive transformation we've undergone, because he wants to do the same thing to the pitching, basically. I mean, for a while there, we had good pitching and we had just a terrible, boring offense. We were lucky to score enough runs to win games. And so they brought in Jeff Albert, and they instituted a system throughout our entire system, a new hitting system and everything. And, now all of a sudden we get all these great prospects and everything. Yeah, it's drafting, but it's developing too. So we got all these guys that all of a sudden are stud players, and our offense looks incredible. Well, now he's basically admitted that he realizes his old way of doing things was wrong. And so he needs to change the way he does it. So if he tries to do a similar thing with the pitching, I would say hang on to him because I think he did a good job with revamping the hitting. So.
Yeah, but also I think that some of that has to do with the fact that, let's be honest, baseball's been taken away from the pitcher a lot for more offense. No more shifts. Obviously, bases are a little bit bigger and stuff like that. Pitch clocks, which has really messed up a lot of pitchers in a sense too. There's been talks that they potentially are going to bring in the outfield walls, which I don't know how far those discussions are. Please, let's not do that. Like, come on, we don't need a home run every other at bat, right? You know what I mean? Like, come on, like this is going to be ridiculous at that
I
point.
mean, these games are getting already ridiculous. Did you not see? I mean, not to take a left turn here, but did you see that the Cubs literally had like between the last two games like the record amount of runs ever scored? It's like no, we don't need more offense right now. Jesus.
And then what it's going to turn into, Adam, it's going to turn in the NFL where a defensive back, like again, everything that I was taught as a defensive back, you can't even do anymore. You know what I mean? Like you literally have to almost let the guy catch the ball and then like as their hands touch the football, then hit them as hard as you possibly can to hopefully knock it out. But they have gloves that have stick them on them essentially, so that ain't happening. Yeah. So anyways, so I do think that some of that has something to do with that as well. Not saying that he, everything that he's implemented, to your point, OJ, is, from, the rules have changed. I don't think that's, it's not all of that, but I definitely think that some of it could potentially be a credit to that. So
that's what I'm saying. That's just this year. They had a top 5 offense last year. We went into this season with such high hopes because of all the stud position players we've got. And part of that is because of Jeff Albert's, his program that he installed in their system. And it was all Mosaic's idea. So you got to give some major credit for that,
Well, I guess ultimately at the end of the day, it's going to be, DeWitt making that decision. And obviously he's looking at it from a money perspective. And if the product stinks and the organization is starting to stink, he's going to take action. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah. And for me, like Mo is going to have a monstrous offseason. You know what I mean? He's going to have to make these trades for better starting pitching or go out and sign starting pitching, whatever it has. And I just don't think he has that ability right now. So.
Yeah. One other thing I'll add to that is that I'm starting to think that Randy Arozarena is like the most overrated player of all time. People talk about him like he's like he's Babe Ruth or something. For over their career, Lars Nootbaar has a higher OPS than Randy Arozarena does. Like the dude came up and had a monster half a season in postseason, and he's been like a pretty good outfielder since then. But that's it. He's basically, as a matter of fact, before this season, I don't think he put up more WAR than any of the outfielders we kept. But people still go on and on about not having Randy Arozarena on our team. It's like, why?
He literally went on a 20 at bat hitless streak as well too. So just saying. Yeah.
I just bring some perspective to that thing. I don't think
it's not even great
strike against Mozeliak. So I just wanted to say like some of the points you brought up could be argued even. So.
Well, for sure, yeah. And again, it's all opinion. You know what I mean? So for sure.
But, there's something that's going to have to change because otherwise, I mean, they're going to have to because they're really struggling. Like I said, just to go back to the point about, the product is they're going to continue to struggle, with viewership and bringing people in because, last year they could, ride the coattails of, with Molina and Pujols and all this excitement with Waino. But as you've been seeing this season, they're giving away tickets a hell of a lot cheaper now, and the viewership just isn't as high, and it's going to continue to decline. So they're going to have to make some changes for sure if they want to continue to, I understand this is one season, but our organization has taken a toll, as far as our reputation for sure.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of hopeful that they will. I'm kind of hopeful that means they'll spend some money this season.
Well, you would hope, right? And I know that the whole Bally's thing kind of screwed them over too. I get it, but they need to spend some money, Yeah,
if they don't spend a decent amount of money to get at least a couple good starters this season, I will be very worried about.
Fans are going to revolt,
And let's be honest, there's plenty of. Go ahead.
I'm saying no one wants them to be like the Tampa Rays, like I think they want to emulate those guys a little bit as far as like the front office and stuff like that works, which is fine. They have a great front office. I'm happy with that, but that doesn't mean you also spend like that. If you put their front office with the New York Yankees, I don't know that they would ever not win a World Series. I mean, obviously there's a lot of luck involved in it, but like they would always have absolute stuff. So like my point is you can be very good if you spend money and have a smart front office. So I'm hopeful that they're not trying to like, oh well, we can get all the production we need for a fraction of the cost. Let's just save a bunch of money.
Yeah, because look at when we took the World Series. Let's actually take a look at the last 4 World Series that we went to, right? 2004 was the best Cardinals team that's ever been put on paper that did not win the World Series. You know what I mean? When you have Larry Walker, a Hall of Fame home run hitter, batting second in your lineup, that's pretty ridiculous. Tony Womack, Larry Walker, then Albert Pujols, Scott Rowland, Jim Edmonds, Edgar Renteria is batting 6th in that lineup.
God, I would kill to have that back.
Oh, by the way, they still had Reggie Sanders too, who's batting 7th. You know what I mean? Then Yadier Molina, like, good lord,
yeah,
that team is.
I would kill to have that lineup.
5 was also good.
Of course,
and then
Yachty was a black hole. In 04, Yachty was a black hole offensively. So.
Yeah, and actually it was Matheny in 2004, but yeah, I always forget that. I think he might have been up, or did he start? I don't remember, but Matheny was still decent too at the time.
I think,
I
don't remember if it was.
I can't remember, but yeah. But regardless, in 2006, we also had a team that we put a lot of money towards, especially in the pitching staff. 2011 was a team that again was balanced on offense. We gave a lot of money to some of these other some of the other guys against Lance Berkman, stuff like that. But our pitching staff was very well compensated. 2013 was almost the exact same thing, obviously minus Albert Pujols, but we had money into it. And now when you look at the team, when you look at like the diamond, the starting 9, you go, okay, look at first and third. That's where the money's at, because I don't feel like there's money anywhere else. Well, besides Contreras now. But at the same time, I just feel that we're going to have that, but we need to be smart about it as well. You know what I mean?
Yep.
As you said, OJ.
Yes.
But, and we've kind of talked about it, but taking a look at the offseason, we're going to need starting pitching, because let's take a look at it. We know that Wayno is going to be retiring, or we probably won't sign him again because he's just been so bad. But you lost Flaherty, you lost Montgomery.
He's retiring.
Yeah. So you only have Miles Michaelis and then Steven Matz, as your starting 5 from this prior season. And Matz has been terrible. So and Libator has been terrible. So like all these trades that you just made for like future pitching and stuff like that all makes sense to me if you know that Grissifo and Tane Kentz are going to be here next year, but they're not. So you're going to have to make some serious improvements to the starting rotation for sure.
Oh yeah, there's definitely more work to do for sure.
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees with you there.
They're going to have to be busy for sure. And that's what I'm saying. I'm really hopeful that DeWitt will actually give Mozeliak some real bullets to use, some cash to spend in free agency, because we can definitely supplement a lot of our staff through the free agency. And then we also have plenty of guys to use for trades for some more. So we definitely have options. It can be done.
Just going to have to be a very big off season for the Cardinals. Again, a lot of talks. Again, what do we do with catching and outfield as well? Because outfield was just decimated this year, obviously with injuries and stuff like that as well. But it's just going to be interesting to see what ends up happening with Mozeliak, and hopefully he is able to spend the money. But if he's still there too, who knows what's going to end up happening? But it's going to be very interesting and very critical offseason for Mozeliak and DeWitt, to be honest with you. So
yeah, absolutely.
Well, guys, let's transition here and talk a little bit before we sign off here about the Women's World Cup. So I got some updates here. We are now in the round of 16. So there's only 16 teams left out of the 32 that started. Switzerland won Group A. They'll be taking on Group C runner-up in Spain. Should be a pretty good game there. Netherlands won our group, which was Group E. They're taking on the runner-up, which is South Africa, which was out of Group G. Group C's winner, which is Japan, will face Norway, which is Group A's runner-up. Then Sweden, who won Group G, is facing the United States, which we know we finished as a runner-up in Group E. Group B was won by Australia. They're facing Denmark as the Group D runner-up. France won the Group F. They'll be taking on Group H runner-up and Morocco. And then England won Group D. They're taking on Nigeria and as a Group B runner-up. And then Colombia won Group H. And they'll be taking on Group F runner-up in Jamaica. So, guys, Team USA did not look very good, especially these past two games, right? They got 3 goals against Vietnam. Then they get a 1-1 draw against the Netherlands. Now the second half was way more impactful because Haran got pissed off. And thank God for Haran in that game. They had a lot more opportunities, but definitely couldn't capitalize it. But then Portugal almost knocked us out of the World Cup. I mean, literally in the second minute of stoppage time, a ball hits the post and a free run, by the way, hits the post, and it luckily gets out of danger zone and literally goes like towards the side, because if not, they could have potentially scored on the rebound as well. It does not look very good for Team USA. So what are your guys' thoughts so far on their performance in the group?
You mentioned the 2 games, even the third game, the first game, which was against Vietnam, while we did win it 3-0, we were talking about it the other day, Josh, is that even that game, we really let our foot off the pedal there. Yeah, we let our foot off the pedal on that. Like, we should have blown them out of the water, and 3-0 Vietnam was disappointing, to say the least, because obviously we're looking for goal differential. So I just want to make that point. So this team just does not look like the team that we've seen the past couple, World Cups for sure. And I think we're not, if we continue the track that we're on, we're going to be knocked out in this next round, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they just don't look sharp in the attacking zone.
Not at all. I mean, we've only won 1 of the 3 games, and that was against freaking Vietnam. It's like, Jesus Christ, and we almost lost that game, with Portugal. So, God, that's scary as hell, man.
For sure. OJ, what's your thoughts here? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Adam.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
OJ, what's your thoughts on Team USA so far in the Women's World Cup?
Yeah, definitely underperforming. I guess maybe got a little complacent. I don't know. I doubt that was it, but I guess when you're the best for long enough, you can start to take things for granted, especially like early stages of tournaments and whatnot. So, might be they got.
I do believe that. And I think that to that point, OJ, that some of that I think is, you have a lot of younger women in this right now. Megan Rubino is coming off the bench. Like Carly Lloyd is no longer there. And so I got to say this too. So Carly Lloyd ripped into Team USA, right? Publicly saying that the effort's not there. They're lucky to even be here right now. They just look terrible. And you have, Haran, who is the leader, the captain of the team, and a lot of other Team USA people are just like, yeah, that's just noise. And even the coaches like, yeah, like she shouldn't be saying stuff like that. This is her her teammates and stuff like that, blah, 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 blah. And I look at it going, guys, you don't even see what she's doing. She's trying to light a fire in your ass because this is how she won 3 World Cups. And right now it ain't getting it done because we literally almost lost to Portugal, which was the 12th, if I remember, or 15th ranked team in the world. We're now facing Sweden, the number 3 team in the world, who, by the way, won all 3 of their games, looked great, and by the way, did beat us 3-0 in the Olympics. So, it's not looking very good on that aspect of things. We have to come out fired up, and we got to prove a point. If we come out and we play our game, we beat Sweden 3-1 or even 2-1. If we beat Sweden and we feel comfortable in that game, okay, cool. Team USA is back. Now you start feeling more comfortable going into it. It's only going to get harder from here, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sweden
it
might be
is.
your biggest challenge, when you look at it on paper, especially because Germany, which is the number 2 team out, didn't even make it past groups. That's freaking crazy. But regardless, it's going to get more and more the pressure is just going to get amplified. So you got to be able to continue to win. And that's my thing about this is in this form, can they win? I don't think they can because I've watched I've watched all 3 of these games and it looked like crap. Even to your point, Adam, against the game Vietnam, a lot of people are like, oh, they just took their foot off. I don't even think that they really took their foot off. They just weren't able to capitalize on the offensive opportunities. Their passing has looked absolutely horrendous. Their decision making has been very bad, and they've been incredibly weak defensively, especially through the middle.
Yeah, I agree. And let's face it, we were used to being able to go in there and dominate, but these newer, these younger women are coming up, around the world, and they're showing that they're real contenders. And it's not going to be a walk in the park for us like it used to be. So
yeah, I do believe that the FIFA rankings are going to change as they change all the time.
oh yeah,
But I think the FIFA, especially if we lose the Sweden, we will not be the number 1 team in the world, and that will be the first time in like 15 years that the women's United States team has not been the number 1 team in FIFA rankings. So it's going to be interesting, but they're playing for legacy, and it's on Sunday night or a Sunday morning, so it's Saturday going into Sunday at 4 a.m. So hope you guys got your coffee for that game.
I was gonna say I don't know if I want to watch. I'll be nervous about that one for sure because I'm not feeling good about it. But I'm hoping that they'll prove me wrong.
Exactly. It's one of those things. Just prove me wrong, and
yeah, I was gonna say
we go from there.
Certainly not looking good for it for sure. So
no, it's not. All right, guys. Well, let's go ahead and head to the sign off here. Adam, why don't you tell the nice listeners here what our socials are and how they can reach out to us?
Our lovely listeners can always hit us up at facebook.com/the hometown losers, LOUSERS. Check us out, like us, share us, comment, post memes, harass us, tell us how much you think that Josh's opinion is totally wrong, that he's too pessimistic, and he just needs to love the Cardinals.
Bring it on.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Or you could always, trash talk OJ over there on Twitter and say, dude, you're so full of it. You have no idea what you're talking about. We are so done. This team is over with on twitter.com/hometown losers.
Oh, by the way, it's not called Twitter anymore. It's called X.
Oh, I'm sorry. x.com/hometown losers.
So weird.
I can't wait for him to just unplug.
Actually, I just tried that and it totally worked.
Right.
I went to x.com/hometown losers and it went to our site. Holy shit.
So you got X. You got X.com. I wonder how much you have to pay for that one.
Well, dude, so back in the day, not to go on off this topic, but he owned X.com. Elon Musk did for years, and it used to go to PayPal.com, and I remember that because it used to be called X before PayPal was a thing. Yeah, he actually bought the domain back. He used to own it.
That's crazy,
Elon. I was gonna say,
OJ. Oh, go on, Adam.
I was going to say, I was, of course, just kidding. We love the commentators' opinions here on the show. Just, had to give you trouble. We'd love to hear the game of the week, though.
Yeah, what's your game of the week, OJ?
So the only interesting one I can find is Sunday, Cardinals versus Rockies at Busch Stadium. 1:15 p.m. Austin Gomber is going up against TBD.
TBD. Let's go, TBD.
I heard he's an up-and-coming prospect.
Exactly. Who did we trade for TBD again?
Cross our fingers that TBD is somebody they caught from the minors that we haven't seen before.
Let's go, TBD.
Game of the week.
All right. I'll be sure to tune in.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, as always, it's awesome talking St. Louis sports with you, especially since we have a lot to talk about with the Cardinals.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we'll continue to talk about that, especially when we get closer and closer to off season and how that's gonna turn out for the Cardinals as well as the Blues and other teams here in St. Louis. So appreciate everybody on the that listens. Catch us next week here on the Hometown Losers podcast. Have a great night, everybody.
Hey, this is Josh. Thanks for checking out and tuning in to the Hometown Losers podcast. Check us out next week as we continue our silliness and talk a little bit about the St. Louis sports scene. Catch you next week.